making sounds towards me. Welcome to the Log Time Podcast, where we talk about manga, anime, light novels, and my unrequited love for Matt. Matt, the ultimate question here, has Moe destroyed the anime industry? Let's start with that.
That's, I mean, that's a really big topic to tackle in the first video. I don't know where you're going to even go from there. Like, where are you gonna, like, what is your, I don't know what your plan is, but, like, if you start from there, we have nowhere to go. Like, that's it. Like
Let's just tackle the big questions here. Moe, is it good or bad? Oh,
like,
gosh.
Like, is this like a news channel now? Like, we're just, like, throwing whatever we want on the freaking screen.
Hey, we can do whatever we want. This is our own channel. Or podcast, I should say.
Yeah, I guess so. We can do whatever we want. As long as we don't get naked.
No promises, Matt. No promises.
Please, no. We don't
Let me start then with the actual question. Matt, how are you?
How am I? I don't know. How am I? I'm doing okay, I guess. I mean, like, is there, like... I'm still baffled by the Moe question. Like,
well, hey, as long as you're doing good, I guess an actual question that I would like to ask you, since we started this thing and I refused to hit stop recording, what would be your favorite one of winter, or what would be your favorite one of spring 2015 right now? Your favorite anime?
Spring 2015.
Yeah, let's start with that. That'd be a good one.
Digimon Adventures Try. No.
Oh gosh,
no.
You're a man after my own heart.
No, I don't even know. Let's see. This winter, the favorite thing I've probably seen so far, Yahari. It has to be Yahari. the second season of Yahari. Like, I had to think about it for a second, but then once I thought about, like, wait, what's on? And I'm like, oh, that show. Yeah, that show's great.
Yeah, no, after we finished watching Yahari, I'm actually really excited to get started on this, because, like, we wrapped up that last episode and I was like, oh gosh, that's so fucking good. So satirical, but very clever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It definitely keeps that same theme. Like, it stays, like, I think I don't want to say it's dropped the satirical section, but, it's kind of kept, like, minimal on that part, and it's definitely gone more into the character development tutorial area for now, at least in these first couple episodes. And it's hitting pretty strong. Like,
that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I think it definitely, the first couple of episodes I was like, okay, what do they want to do, like in the first season? So if they wanted to start with something that was a little bit more character driven, just starting off that way, I think that'd be pretty cool. Not to mention it's the second season. We already know that it's going to be satirical and stuff like that, but we don't really delve that far into the characters.
Right.
So I think I definitely think that's something that I'll be excited for in the second season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the character development is, like, it's gotten, like, really good. Like, I mean, I obviously can't stick a rating onto it right now, but it's really, it hits hard. It hits hard when it needs to.
Yeah, I mean, it's not done yet, so no reason to rate it.
Yeah.
I would probably say my favorite, absolutely Duel Masters VSR. I'm super excited for that one. No, I haven't seen anything yet for this season. I predict that it's probably going to be Yahari, although the few episodes that I've seen of Hibiki Euphonium do seem pretty good. It hasn't gotten very far, so I hope they speed it up a little bit, because the first episode, like, almost literally nothing happens. They didn't even, like, not to go into spoilers, but they didn't even necessarily, like, join anything in the first episode. They're just like, I might, and then the episode ends, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, like, I don't really know how I feel about Hibiki Euphonium. A lot of Kyoto Animation shows, especially, like, I guess the thing I can compare it to right now is, like, Chutu, I guess would be the closest thing. I have Kyoko no Kanata, like, kind of, but they both kind of started like that. They showed just like glimpses of what's going to happen, and they didn't really get into it until later, which served to Kyoko no Kanata's downfall, because they ended up, like, rushing the back half and it wasn't any good. But
Do
I
you
hope they don't
think
do
that's
that with this one.
something? Yeah, I was about to ask. Do you think that's something that they'll actually do though in
Um,
Hibiki?
I hope not. Like, I don't really know what direction they're going for with Hibiki Euphonium. Like when I saw like the preview video, it kind of looked like that cutesy slice of life thing, like K-On! Was going to. But at
Yeah,
the same time, I feel like they're going for that more dramatic approach, like they wanted to, or like they did with like I'd even like to say like the second season of Chew 2, or like maybe the latter half of Chew 2's first season.
I'd
Like,
probably even say the art style. They're definitely going for that very pretty, very vivid and bloom effect that they had in Hyoka.
oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
like it hit me as soon as they started that. It was like either Tamako Love Story, the movie that they made, although not
Mhm.
to that extent, or Hyoka, just because Hyoka definitely had that very colorful, very vivid, and it had that bloom effect on everything every time that
Oh
they were
yeah,
outside. And that just hits me like a train in Hyoka, and it's doing the same thing in Euphonium, and it's like, oh gosh, the
yeah.
colors.
It could actually turn out to be very similar to Hyoka in that regard. I think I think what makes it different from Hyoka is definitely it seems to they're not really focusing on like the whole like character developing thing yet. Like they might get into that. I assume that's what the direction maybe they'll take it, but I assume there's going to be a lot more. It's going to be a lot more dramatic than Hyoka was, even though Hyoka had quite some dramatic moments as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be as. I feel like it's probably not gonna be as dramatic as Hyoka was. Um, Personally, just because like it seems to set itself up as very very K-On!-ish. It except
Yeah,
for that one scene at the very beginning of the series, where it's just
yeah,
like their tears are rolling down Black Hair's, I can't remember her name, but Black Hair's cheeks, and she's just like, oh, I wanted to get in, and then she didn't.
yeah. I still really think that they're trying to go for the dramatic thing, but I don't really know. It seems like the first couple episodes haven't really gone there. Like there was that like hint in like the second episode where they were like she was sitting on the steps there or whatever, and she was like contemplating whatever, and then like she's talking with their childhood friend or whatever. We don't really
Yeah.
know her relation to her. I assume it's something like that though.
Plus, I don't know how like deeply emotional they're gonna be whenever they have a character like like what's her tits? I think she's not a fellow euphonium player. What does she play?
She's that
She's low brass.
um the
I want to say it's like trombone or something like that.
which girl are you talking about? You're talking about the one that like plays the contrabass, or the one that like
No, I'm talking about
you're talking
not
about the one that brought
four.
the mouthpiece for like the wrong
No,
instrument.
no. I'm talking about the one that's already in the band. That's their senior. That just fucking ridiculous at all
her.
times.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess if you have some lighthearted characters like that, it's gonna be very hard
To make
to
it super serious.
make it super. I could still see them doing it, but I think it would probably feel a little forced, maybe, or like maybe not forced. Maybe like I guess cliche. I guess would be the way to put it. If they tried to do something like that, like push it too hard. So maybe they are going. Maybe they are going for the slice of life thing. I don't know. It's really hard to tell after you watch 2 episodes.
Yeah, it's just really hard because we've both have only seen 2 episodes of it, haven't we?
Yeah, I still got episodes 3 and 4 I haven't seen. So
Yeah, so it's gonna be. I don't know. It's just because not much has happened. They obviously joined the Wind Symphony, but they just haven't done anything with it.
yeah, I guess that's really what it is. It's that yeah, they just haven't done anything with it yet, and I don't know how much they can really do with a 1 core, but I guess we'll find out. I mean, if you think about it, I guess K-On! Didn't do much in 1 core either. So
No, I guess it didn't really. But K-On! Was like pure slice of life.
yeah, it was definitely more slice of life oriented as well. So
Also, I can't get over the fact that their teacher, the one of the few dudes so far that actually is like highlighted in the show. I can't get over how much he looks like an older version of like my best friend from elementary school. It's creepy. Like I saw him on campus like a while back, whenever like on my last semester at Marshall,
Mm.
and it's just so creepy because I saw that, and then like 6 months later I started seeing, or yeah, 6 months later I see Hibiki Euphonium PV, and I'm like, what the fuck? It looks
Yeah.
exactly like him. I'm like, he's been turned into an anime character. Who saw this man? Who
I
saw
mean,
this man and was like, yes, he shall be the sensei.
I guess I didn't. I mean, obviously, I didn't make the connection to your friend or whatever because I've never. I guess I don't think I've seen it before.
No,
No.
no, you
No.
haven't. It
Okay.
just
Okay.
throws me for a loop every time I watch the show, and I'm just like, Bennett. Oh, it's so confusing for me. Um, yeah, so I think I might be excited for Yubiki Phone. I'll tell you what I'm actually really excited for, but in a completely different way,
Oh
is
God.
definitely Kiniro Mosaic.
Oh God.
That second season, man, I'm so excited. Our little British terrorists that are invading Japan. Oh, I can't wait until we get to see what trouble they get into. Um,
Oh my God. British
it's
terrorists.
it's so funny that we see this gif of like her making the plane thing, and then she just crashes into the twin towers, and then like they constantly make references that are almost sort of terrorist. It's like they mention
Yeah.
bombs in one
Yeah.
episode, and then they constantly do airplane shit, and it's like the PV for the second season has dive bombing airplanes in it, and we're like,
That was
okay,
probably not a great
unseen
choice on
this.
their part. They didn't really
It's,
think about that.
of course, they probably don't have this preset notion of like the characters uh, airplaning into the twin
I mean, I
towers
guess that's true. They
9/11
didn't see
style.
the GIF, so I mean,
Yeah, not to mention it's Japan. They didn't really have much to do with 9/11. But
yeah.
it's just so perfect how much that happens. It's like
Maybe
they'll make references to flying on airplanes, which of
I,
course it
get-
makes sense. They
I
came from
just kind of
Britain.
thought about this, like not to like throw a wrench in everything, but you know, what if this is actually? What if we're looking at this like the wrong terroristic event? What if this actually isn't terrorism? What if this is just them warning us for Pearl Harbor Part 2?
They're just like, get fucking ready, motherfuckers. We're about to get Kantai collection on your ass. Prepare Hawaii.
Oh my God.
That is so. No, that's terrible, man.
No, but really, like, it's got planes and bombs and
This PV is just so great because it's just "Nurl" across the street, across the screen, and it's just constant airplanes everywhere. And it's terrible for this previous notion that we have that it's all about terrorism secretly. The subliminal messaging of this.
subliminal message of Kinaro Mosaic. Moe, going back to the first question, Moe is terrorism. If you don't leave this podcast with anything else, Moe is terrorism.
Matt, we've answered our original question that I asked you. Is Moe ruining the anime industry? Not necessarily, but it is terrorism. So terrorism is bad and it will destroy everything.
Right. Moe is terrorism.
I don't know what the formula is for Moe, but the fact that I'm just like, oh yeah, that looks super cute. I'm gonna totally watch that. And I'm a guy, it scares me. It scares me a little bit.
I don't know. Like, I just kind of like, oh yeah, I'll watch that. Cool. I kind of watch a lot of things like that though.
It's true. It's like we're not solely stuck on Moe. It's like we'll watch a whole bunch of other shit as well.
I wouldn't
so.
say I can speak for myself here. I'm not stuck on Moe.
No. Hey, at least our tastes are decent. It's not like we're so super excited for High School DxD season coming out right here. Oh man.
Hey, that's
So
High School
excited.
DxD season 3.
Is it
Now,
really season 3? I would have thought it was season 7 by now.
Hey, you know what the funny thing is? Season 3 is, from what I hear, and like they've gone an anime original route, even with like the additional like 10 volumes of source material that they haven't gone through yet.
Let me actually click on it here. High School DxD. I don't I don't understand the show. The only things that I've seen of it, because I haven't actually sat down to watch it, is just boobs. Nothing but boobs. It's like when I watched High School of the Dead, and it was just. It was. You'd think it'd be about zombies, but it turns out it's actually just about boobs. It's just tits. And then they have the whole, like, fucking Matrix scene where it's like.
Oh my god,
the bullet
okay.
goes between the tits. It's so dumb, and I immediately turned it off. I was like I tried to get through that, and I was just like, no, this is horrible.
The
It's
only
stupid.
people I know that have finished it were girls.
It's like we're completely unoffended by this because yeah, our boobs do that as well. No, like that's so weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't really get it, and boobs don't move that way. I know they don't move that way. Like that you don't even have to be a boob expert to know that. Like you know that's not even how physics works. Like a physicist probably sat there and was like, "This is probably great," and here I am. I'm like, no, that physicist needs to be fired because he doesn't know physics.
I feel like a boob expert is just who they bring in that's from the Dead or Alive team, and they're just like, hey, how do we animate this? And they're like, oh yeah, you need to do it like this. It's so stupid. But from what I've seen of High School DxD, it's basically that. It's nothing but fan service.
Yeah, I mean, apparently, like, some of the jokes are really clever, and apparently the plot is actually really good. Like, not like the plot, like the freaking, like, boobs, but like, not that kind of plot, but like the actual plot is apparently supposed to be pretty good.
Not the joke Monogatari plot where it's just like deep plot, intriguing characters, and it's just like showing nothing but flashing tits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Gosh, I love that meme. No, that's something that scares me too, because I was looking at specifically Hestia from Dungeon, and it's like the only thing that I see coming from that show is just the memes about that ribbon. And it makes me nervous about how the actual plot is for that show. I've heard it's great. I haven't sat down to watch it yet.
From what I saw in the first couple episodes, it's been all right. Like, I mean, again, they haven't really gone anywhere yet, but like, and you can tell it's kind of going a direction. I'm not really sure what that direction is, but I'm hoping that it didn't, like, I saw a clip from episode 4, I guess, that seemed like they were doing something a little bit deep. Maybe like SAO level, a little bit better. Like it's supposed to be better, well written anyway. But yeah. It seems to be at least, like, trying to do that type of thing, so it's not like fan service all the time from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's like, I'm looking at the PV right now, and it doesn't seem that bad. Like, there's a lot of neat little fantasy elements here. Some intriguing characters, I guess. There's like a wolf dude, and then there's the two main characters.
Right. There's a lot of characters involved. That's
yeah, in this PV, there's only like one actual, like, sketchy joke where they're just like, oh, she's like on top of him while he's trying to sleep or something like that. And that's been it so far. Everything else looks like, oh, that looks kind of cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the relationship that those two have is kind of interesting, because it's not like a boy and girl tag team or anything. It's like, from what I understand, like, the main character is like a part of her family, so there's kind of like, they kind of like share a familial bond. Yes, that's the word I was going for.
I mess up on the word all the time.
But yeah, it's kind of like that more than anything. Like, and they definitely really focused hard in the episode 2.
Well, that's cool. I mean, No Game No Life did that, and I loved that familial bond that they have of the brother and sister in No Game No Life, and how they just play off of each other so well. Like, that was cool. I loved that about No Game No Life.
Right. That's I feel like it's kind of going a similar, not like a similar direction, but like it kind of has the same theme, like, in that regard. So
neat. So I'm excited to watch that. I'll probably watch it. I know it's sometime this week, but probably be like today, or not today. Technically today. Why are we recording this at 3 a.m.? Either Monday or today or tomorrow, Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to date the video.
Correct.
I don't know. There's not much else that I've really, like, looked at so far that I'm like just like, oh yeah, no, I totally want to watch that. There's some cool stuff coming out. I just haven't
Yeah.
like sat down to be like, oh yeah. I am kind of excited just on a personal note for Lupin the Third because I do love those movies.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you were excited for Triage X. I thought that was what you were excited for.
Triage X.
Yeah.
Uh, oh gosh, I see the picture for it now.
Thought you were ready. Oh, well, as long as we don't have to watch that, I think almost the rest of this list is probably okay-ish.
Oh gosh, this first sentence. Mochizuki General Hospital boasts some of the most well-trained and well-endowed nurses in town. When you start out with that first sentence, I'm a little worried.
Yeah.
But through these
Also,
ladies,
notice how
so
there's
much
no
time.
etchy tag. Notice how there's no etchy tag.
Indeed, yeah. No, there is no edgy tag, but there's plenty of fan service apparently.
Oh, it's definitely there. Yeah, it's clear.
Under the leadership of the hospital chairman, a handful of staff members and local teenagers form a group of mercenary assassins targeting the cancers of society and exercising those individuals
I guess
before their wickedness spreads.
the
What the fuck?
sources and so that's Anime News Network. I didn't know that 4chan wrote for Anime News Network now. Um, yeah, that's interesting. No, I would actually watch like a lot of the things on this list though. Like,
Oh no, yeah. This season seems awesome. Like
yeah,
I there's a bunch of second seasons and third seasons that I just can't get to yet because I haven't seen the first season. Like Knights of Sidonia, I think is
right.
on there.
That's apparently supposed to be really good.
Gintama.
Gintama,
Holy
yeah.
shit! I totally forgot Nisekoi. I
Yeah.
haven't even mentioned it yet. I'm so excited for Nisekoi. Even though you said Nisekolin, as our good friend Zack has said. Um, even though you said it, it started off a little weird.
hmm Yeah, it's starting off a little weird. The second and third episodes seem to kind of remedy that. Although, I watched the Kami copy for it, and they do their text effects, and they go a little overboard. But that's a whole nother story. Anyway, the plot for Nisekoi is for the episodes 2 and 3 seems to like redeem itself a little bit, but I haven't read the manga past that point either very much. So because anything after that, the volume after that was basically a bunch of just one-off chapters. So I don't know where they're going to go from there and how much ground they're going to cover. So.
Yeah, because apparently, like the first couple episodes that you told me, it just speeds through everything. Which or they like skip over some things. That makes me a little nervous because they did such a good job with that first season.
Yeah, they really nailed the first season, and yeah, I guess Shaft is going a little crazy at the studio because I don't know, and I don't know. It's only gonna be 12 episodes, and that part I guess really concerns me. But I haven't read anything past that, so I don't know. And it just looks like I feel like it's gonna be rushed, and I really don't want it to be rushed.
Especially since you showed me the actual intro to it, and like it suddenly has like all these characters that had nothing to do with season one, and you're just like, who are these people? What is going on? And it's like, how can they explain all of that in like 12 episodes? Because
Yeah.
the first season spent a lot of time, except for Marika
hmm
Tachibana.
Right.
Except for her, they spent a lot of time with each character and actually like explained them out and all of their feelings for pro tag and stuff like that. And when they finally got to her, they did spend a couple episodes going over it. It's just it wasn't as in depth as everybody else because they ran out of time. But it
Yeah.
was still really well done.
Yeah. Definitely. That would be probably one of the things I actually would say that hurt the first season of Nisekoi was that I think they tried to cover too much material in the amount of time, and they just kind of just ran out of time. And,
But they managed to finish it off pretty well. And that
Yeah.
final episode with the whole Romeo and Juliet thing was phenomenal. That was perfect. It was so
Yeah.
great. And it's also surprising to me because usually I actually don't like harem, because mostly it's just a whole bunch of tropes of just a whole bunch of perverted jokes with some edgy to it, and then that's it. And like the relationships go nowhere, and it really bothers me. But
Um,
like, and granted, I've not seen that much harem, but that's the way that it sometimes tends to go. And like Nisekoi just surprised me because like they had some perverted jokes and they had obviously some like fan service, but like it was just a lot of character development.
right, and I think that's really what like I'm a harem expert. No, I'm not really a harem expert, but I've seen a lot of it. Either
Back in my
willingly or
day,
back in my day, those girls never loved the main character like that. Like,
back in my day, we grew up with fucking Love Hina, and it was fantastic, and everyone loved it. And now all you youngsters got these dang shows. Um,
these are just spinning off the old stuff, you know. Like I mean, no, let's face it. Like Love Hina wasn't exactly an original story either.
no, it was just the one that popularized it at the
Right.
time. I popular. Yeah, it was the one that
Popularized.
actually it was the one actually made harem. It made a formula that worked well, so people started to really use that formula that Love Hina had.
Right. They and that formula is I haven't seen Love Hina, so I don't know exactly like the ins and outs of the formula you're talking about, but um, yeah, I mean, I bet a lot of those things are still staples in
Oh yeah,
modern
yeah.
harem.
No, anytime that I see a harem, I keep on thinking back to like Love Hina and Tichi Muyo to an extent as well. Even though I think that one's a little older too. Except for Tichi Muyo was that weird harem where like we don't care if it's supposed to be like a sci-fi-ish setting. We're just gonna put everything in here. It was like fantasy, sci-fi, space exploration, but only for a couple characters. Everybody else stayed on Earth, and then like all this other weird stuff that they just put together, and it was so strange. They even had a ghost chick that was like constantly harassing everyone. But it worked for some reason, or at least I remember it working. It's been a long time since I've seen Tenchi Muyo.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I haven't really seen a lot of the older harems, but I mean, what you kind of described, you know, I mean, I guess that doesn't really happen too much in harems anymore. Like, they don't just throw random shit in.
No, they
Um,
usually have some sense of a setting. It's like,
yeah,
okay, now we're all in space, or now we're all living at some shrine, and that's it.
or in some cases, we'll start out as a fantasy, and then we're gonna get a bunch of people together, and then we're gonna go into a sci-fi setting. You know,
Yeah,
like,
that's about it.
uh, well, that's not exactly the best way to do that, but again, that's what happens when you don't know what direction your story's gonna go. Um, you're just like, we're gonna do this. Oh, by the way, plot twist. This is actually the Matrix. Like, I mean, that has
It's
happened.
like,
I have seen that. It's a little
all right.
confusing.
This is
A little
almost
confusing.
like what Yu-Gi-Oh decided to do for like its second and third season. It's just like we've run out of ideas. What do we do? Put them all in the Matrix. Okay,
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
good.
That was like, all right, first season, we're going to take them to, whatever it was, like Battle Island or
Yeah,
I
and
don't
it
know.
was like have some references to some Egyptian stuff, and it still had these like magical tokens. But then by the third season, the magical tokens were just ridiculous, and like the evil bad guys. It's like apparently good old way back in the centuries, the Egyptian pharaoh had a lot of bad guys or something because we always thought it was just Kaiba. No, it's everybody. Literally everyone that has any one of these Egyptian medallions.
And you know what? Like, if you really think about it, like, Kaiba really was never a bad guy. He just was, he just kind of like, he was a rich kid.
I mean,
Let's be honest, that's all he was.
he was just a rich punk. To be fair, he was a bad guy for like one episode. Or I guess
Yeah.
it was two. It was the intro
I mean,
to Yu-Gi-Oh! And then he has that whole mind break thing, and then he's never the same after that.
oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but then that's the only time, and it was like he was kind of evil. Like he ripped up a $5,000 card or some shit like that. And there's only one in the entire world or something.
Oh yeah,
It was one of the
there
Blue
was
Eyes
only
White
three of these
Dragons.
in the world. But
Yeah, and he just rips
that,
it up. and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's terrible, and it's like, honestly, yeah, that cost that old man probably a fortune back in the day, but like now it's like that was the only bad thing he did, and then after that it was just like, oh, I gotta take care of my little brother, and oh, my rich kid personality is in contrast to me doing good things. He tried to be an anti-hero.
Yeah. He was Batman.
I'm Batman. He secretly probably thought he was. He was that rich kid that had all the power that kept on doing secretive things. On the island, he had his own secret base.
Yeah.
He had his own Batcave.
Wait a minute. Didn't he, like, did he own that island? I don't remember. Like, I mean.
I think it was a part of his company, and that was like one of the things.
Like, isn't that, like, the plot of Yu-Gi-Oh, though? Like, everything's a part of his company. Like,
Everything's
even,
a
like,
part
when
of
they-
his company.
Even
Yeah.
then when they go to, like, Battle City, or, like, even some of the later arcs when they go to that Battle Tower after the
Yeah,
Battle City.
and they're on the
then they
Matrix
go to, like,
thing.
they do
And
the
then they're on the
Matrix thing.
yacht, and the yacht is a part of his company as well.
And then there's, like, a blimp, and that's a part of his company.
And the
and then,
movies
like-
were still a part of it. Everything really revolves around Kaiba. That's the true hero of
He's
the
a
story.
plot device. That's really what they were using Kaiba for.
Yeah, it's like he's the rich guy that we can put all of our plot devices in. Is there another anime that you can think of that was that bad about it?
Like, that just was like, plot device, left and right and left and right.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's some shonen that I refuse to watch that have this whole problem as well. It's just I can't recall anything right now, and I have nothing against shonen. It's just like very stereotypical shonen. I tend to stay away from.
I mean, I can't think of any right now because
I'm sure there's like old school 80s and 90s anime
I'm
that
sure.
was the entire thing.
Yeah.
It's just plot device.
yeah, at least now with modern anime like 2006 and beyond, like what they do is they're like, we mentioned something and now it's never mentioned again. That's the plot device. They're just like, you know what, we don't want to use that, so we just forget about it. It doesn't exist.
Hey, like the bad guy from Sword Art Online, he mentions
God.
once that he has a reason that they're all in there, and then never again.
And then never
Not,
again.
not even at the end of the entire arc, the end of the first light novel, does he mention why he stuck them all in there and killed thousands of people. I know I
Yeah.
bring that up all the time, but it makes me so mad. It's just
mean-
like, why did you do that? Why did you put us all in this machine? You know, I wanted to build a castle, and I can't remember anything after that. I have no idea. And then that's the way that they end the book. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yep. And that is that way in the book. I can confirm that. At least in the translation that I've read. I mean, it could technically, we could just have a bunch of mistranslations all throughout the material.
But that's
Like-
the thing, though, is that yours is the actual. You bought it off of Amazon. It's the professional translation.
It's the-
professional.
Okay, let's talk about professional translations for a second. You've seen professional translations. Go watch Funi. Okay? That's a professional translation.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. That's the one that everybody in America, if they're interested, they're like, oh well, I'll just buy the book. That's the one that they get, and it's the same one that they used in the anime as well. I want to point that out. Why did you do that? You know, I have no idea. I've been in here for 2 years, just like you, totally spaced. Have no idea, but I'm sure it was a good reason.
Yeah.
End of book 1.
Yeah. Actually, that was into book 2. But
Oh, really?
yeah.
Wow. Drag that on for 2 books and you don't give a valid reason.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, I guess technically it was the end of book 1, but that whole world was 2 books. So I guess it was the end of book 1. Still, that was the main story. Like, come on. Gotta have a little bit better explanation than that.
You know, I remember somebody said this, like, I can't remember where I saw this. It was like on Tumblr or like Reddit or something, but like they actually posed a question. They're like, is Shingeki no Kyojin and Sword Art Online like this generation's version of like way back when what we grew up with? So like I guess for me it would be like Pokemon and Naruto, and then for other, or I guess the teenage years, so it'd be like Trigun, and then for like people after me it was like Naruto and like One Piece. Is like even though those still, like, Naruto just wrapped up and One Piece is still going, it's like, are those like the introduction anime for people now?
Um, I would argue, yeah. I think those are introductory anime for people now. Like those, like when you go, like if you go look for recommendations, like if you're not like looking like I want to say like not official recommendations, but like if you don't want to go to like 4chan's recommendations because those are like they're expecting you already have a background of some sort. Um, but like
And they're gonna
yeah,
be snobs about it
if
if you
you wanted
don't.
to like if you want like people to get into anime, you usually showed them something like Shingeki no Kyojin or like yeah, like Sword Art Online. Even like even I would argue like No Game No Life is even like even part of that. But
No, I
like
totally agree with you on that point. They're definitely introductory ones because honestly, their plots are not the most complicated. Shinjeki no Kyojin gets there at a certain point, but like in all honesty, it's not anything super complicated, and it's very much what you'd expect out of like a stereotypical kind of shonen thing for Sword Art Online, at least. Although I don't think it has the shonen tag, does it?
um
No, does not. Just action adventure. Um,
okay.
but I think it definitely fits a lot of the ideas of like what you'd expect out of like a Shonen Jump kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of is the same type of thing. And you know what? I'm thinking maybe that's the reason like either people A really like fantasy stories or B they just like or there's something about those animes themselves that make it like introductory level. But I think that's the reason why Dungeon has a lot of popularity right now, and that might actually be another introductory anime later down the line.
No, I definitely think it is absolutely an introductory anime, and I don't mean anything negative about that. It
Yeah,
just means
I
like
don't
it's a
either.
great one to get someone started into the anime industry or just anime in general. Which reminds me, I remember seeing it was a teenagers react on the React channel on YouTube. They had
Hmm.
teenagers react to Shinjeki no Kyojin, and they just showed them clips from Attack on Titan. Like they showed them, I want to say like the opening or something like that to begin with, and they're like, "What did you think?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, that seems pretty cool. It's like an action thing. I haven't, Animu. I haven't watched that in forever." Um, but like but then they show them different clips from the show of just like just the dramatic moments and like people getting their fucking heads chopped off and or bitten off, I guess. And they're like, "Whoa!" And then they start showing them like a couple of interesting scenes with a little bit deeper plot. It was a cool video, and like the kids' reactions were interesting because they're like, I never really thought of anime. I always thought of it as just like the kids thing, which is weird that people still think that. Like I remember
Yeah,
that as
and I
whenever
guess
I was
that
growing up.
and you know what I think I attribute that to? I think I attribute that to people watched it as kids, therefore they kind of compartmentalize it in their mind that it is a kids thing because they did it as kids.
Yeah, and it's also a culture thing because like for us besides recently whenever we start getting into like the Family Guys, which relatively recently, it's like 7
Yeah,
years or something.
yeah,
But like that's still relatively recently as far as culture goes
right.
for a country, and it's like culture besides like those from like Adult Swim and those other ones, we've always thought of cartoons as being a kids thing. It's like originally they were made for everybody. Looney Tunes had a whole bunch of references that only parents would get, but we dropped that off, and then people were just like, "Yeah, let's just have slapstick inside of a cartoon show, and kids will love it." And
Hmm.
we no longer had cartoons or animated anything for adults. So like now that we're starting to see a little bit of a comeback of that because thanks to anime and other countries' animation and thanks to our own animation of like Metalocalypse, Family Guy, and a whole bunch of other ones,
Right.
I think we're starting to see a culture shift, but it's still recent.
Yeah, I think that's something we'll see. I think that that mentality will hopefully like maybe go away a little bit. Like people will not not look. I don't want to say look down on it, but like they'll
It is in a
move.
sense looking down. They compartmentalize it as kids.
Yeah, and so oh, you're still like you're basically you haven't grown up, and like like that whole thing. And for some reason, that's a bad thing too, because that means you're immature and like
Yeah,
whatever.
it's like, oh, what are you doing still watching anime? It's like I heard that all the time growing up where they're just like anime and they kept on thinking of like DBZ and especially Pokemon at the time because Pokemon became so popular.
Right.
Like we grew up with it. And they're just like, anime. Why are you still watching that kid stuff? And it's like at the time I was watching like Shinshiken, Trigun, Cowboy Bebop, and all these other ones that were like really cool.
Right.
Or reading Shinshiken. I don't want to watch that anime. But like I was reading Shinshiken and like Death Note at the time as well. I was reading that, and then like watching Trigun, Cowboy Bebop. It was all these ones that were definitely a lot more mature and had much more interesting stories and much more interesting things going on. And it's like I couldn't explain that to them because they had already formulated an opinion that it's
Right.
for kids. So it was cool to see that teenagers react thing whenever they show them Shingeki no Kyojin, because one, it is great as an introduction back into anime if you've been away from it or if you've never really even had an interest in it. And then on top of that, it definitely shows that it can be darker. It doesn't necessarily have to be straight for kids. And I wouldn't say that like Shingeki no Kyojin is like a mature storyline per se, because it's dark, but it's like teenager angsty almost. Almost. It definitely has that. It rides that fine line, but it stays on the just dark side instead of edge master.
Yeah. Edge Master.
But like, no, it's definitely interesting to hear like what people were saying about it, because they're like, oh, that's cool. And then I loved it because a lot of the kids were like, oh yeah, no, I would definitely watch this. In fact, I think I might, because they're like, is there a way to watch this? They're like, yeah, you can, go to Crunchyroll or go to Netflix or whatever. And they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna watch that. And they're like, yeah, and you should totally watch like a couple other things too. I think they said that. I could be totally pulling that out of my ass, but I know that they were like, yeah, no, I'll totally watch that. That's really cool. And I was like, that's great. It's a perfect introduction to get you back into anime.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of would like to see more people get into anime. I mean, like,
Absolutely. I mean,
and because
we're a little
it is
biased on that, but
I mean, yeah, obviously, but like, I mean, it is an interesting medium, and there's a lot of interesting. I just used the word interesting again, but like, it's very, wow, I can't think of another word other than interesting.
it's
Wow.
varied, I would say, because like in Japan, and anime, it's just animation. It's just another show that they make. So like, there's so many different ones. There's some for little kids. There's some for teenagers. There's some for adults. Although not as much, but there is honestly
Right.
some that's made for adults.
There's also
No
some
way.
that's made for little
There was
girls.
There's some
you
made
know.
for little girls, and then a huge amount of ones that almost seem like they're for little girls, but they're totally for 40-year-old men.
Yeah.
Which is always weird and strange. I don't understand that.
I mean, again, that's another societal compartmentalized thing, where although you think if that was the case, then people would be like, oh, those are for girls because they start girl characters. But now it's like, oh, no, you're being
Yeah.
creepy. So,
When you think about it, it's like K-On! Is an anime that it's not for girls. It's for guys. It's honestly for guys between 18 and 32, I would say. But then like you look at like Free, which is or Haikyuu, which is all about guys and guys doing guy stuff, and that's for girls. That's for girls from the ages of like 14 to like 25. And that blows my mind. I'm like, when did we start doing this? It's so weird that Japan does that, because over here, it's like if it's an all-girl cast, we're like, yeah, that's for girls.
yeah,
That's so strange to me. I guess there's that culture shock, a difference there.
it's that culture gap. I agree. I think that's exactly what it is. Like,
And it's weird too, because like if you showed those same shows, like if you showed K-On! Over here in America, I'm sure that there would be a ton of. I mean, one, it's a great show. There'd be a ton of people of all genders wanting to watch it, but it would definitely do well with a female audience.
yeah. Let's, for example, if someone saw me watching that, they'd be like, why are you watching that girl show? Like,
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure. And yeah, I guess it must be that culture gap, and I guess we just don't really understand it.
It's like the only person that doesn't typically watch anime that I usually will talk about that with is my sister, but she totally gets it because like I grew up with her, so like I always watched the same shows as she did. I just became used to like watching things. Like one of my favorite movies growing up was Matilda. And that is entirely about a girl with
That's a good movie.
superpowers kicking ass. And it's a great film. It's just
Hmm.
one of those that I know a lot of people like would initially look at and be like, "Oh yeah, that's totally for girls." But it's a great film just in general.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
the
I
same thing
would
with a
agree.
lot of those anime too.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, wait, what were we originally talking about? We're talking about like shonen introduction level. Um,
Yeah, but we base I think we've basically wrapped that up. Is there
yeah.
one that you would say besides those would be a great introductory one?
And well, I'm trying to like think of like, what do you think? You know what? I guess, I guess Space Dandy's a little bit different, but I was trying to think of something like not fantasy. Um,
Space Dandy, I would say, is a great introductory, but not for anyone of a certain age, just because it's a little too mature for certain ages.
yeah. Well, I was just
Um,
saying like people that have watched anime before and are looking to get back into it. That's the kind of mentality I was approaching it at.
oh yeah, and it's from the same director as Cowboy Bebop, so like, or creator as Cowboy Bebop, so like, it's obviously like his style typically does that. Whenever he does something like that, it's typically like it's actually pretty cool, and like a lot of people would enjoy it, kind of thing.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
weird, but I would definitely define Space Danny as a slice of life.
Oh yeah.
Just
Oh yeah.
because every
Definitely.
episode is segmented, and like some episodes they just straight up die. And
Yep.
Ed and Eddie did that as well, and like a couple other shows. Courage the Cowardly Dog did that all the time with
Hmm.
Eustace. Like every episode would just end with him in a horrible situation, and then the very next episode starts again, and he's perfectly fine. And they just don't explain it. They actually did explain it in Space Dandy though, within the first, I want to say like 15 minutes of the show or something,
Yeah.
where they go into an in between dimensions, and then they just get ripped to like several different dimensions, and they're constantly jumping. So like because of that, every episode actually is occurring and happening, but it's an alternate dimension. Like that was a clever way to
Hmm.
go about it.
Yeah. Although, I guess a question I would have about that is, would you consider, would you, maybe not, maybe would you consider, but like, do you think that maybe that was just a plot device? Like, what's the difference between a plot device and like, for example, just a clever, planned out plot? What do you think the difference is there?
Um, I think it's how it's used. If it's written well, it would be the difference. Because I I think I mean obviously every story has plot devices.
Correct.
Because that's how the story keeps going. It's like, okay, this happens, and then this happens, and it's basically bullet points on a list. Um, but like, I feel it's like that anyways. But like, I think the difference is that if it's something that kind of stands alone, it's just like this happens, okay, this, and it's not worked well into the story. It's just like, okay, I guess we're doing this now. Compared to if it's written well.
Yeah, I know there's probably no way to like objectively define when it's written well and when it's not,
Right,
but
absolutely,
like,
because it's arbitrary.
mhm.
I would definitely say there are moments when you're just like, oh yeah. I think if the plot device stands on its own and just alone, that definitely affects my feeling on it. Is like if it's I'm trying to think of a good example of that, of just something where it's just like this, and they're like, oh okay, well I guess this is the way things work now. Um, I can't think of one right off the bat. This is gonna bother me. But basically, if it's just if it's bad, I know that's arbitrary to say, but like if it's just on its own, it's not really. It doesn't fit into the story. It's that well. It's just like suddenly he comes to the room. It's like a soap opera. It's just like, why did you betray me? And it's like I didn't betray you. I have your child, and all of a sudden the story's about how he has a child now, and it's so dumb, but it keeps the ball rolling. That's stupid. That is a stupid plot device. And
So
I've definitely seen anime do that before.
so you think it has to do with how well it's planned out, basically, and how the initial device is used to carry the story. Like I'm trying to figure out. Like obviously in their soap opera example, that's a plot device because that came out of nowhere and now that does affect the story a whole lot and does change things.
Yeah,
Um,
it affects the story and it changes things, but it comes out of nowhere and it doesn't fit into the story. And you can have a twist ending suddenly, or like a twist in your story, but like
right.
if it's not worked well into the story, it's terrible. It's horrible. And I would be like, that's just using a plot device because. Um,
Gotcha.
let me. This list is gonna be really painful on the eyes, but
Well, I mean, I was just kind of wondering that because I mean, there's a lot of times where you can look at an anime and be like, ah, there's a plot device. You know, you say that it's kind of one of those things you say because you see it and you're like, ah, plot device. But then you think about it and like, I mean, what would you do? Does the plot really need that? That I guess that's kind of it for me. Does the plot really need that there for everything else to be good? Like, and I guess that
I
comes
think
back to
that's a
that
good way.
standalone thing.
Right. I
Like,
think that's a good way to describe it.
um, can it be removed from the story and the story still make coherent sense? I think that would be the way I would describe it. On that note, though, what would you like? Because there's obviously a lot of plot devices. Um,
I actually did think of an example of a plot device that's used well that traditionally is not.
okay.
And it's a bit of a spoiler, but in Haganai, uh,
Oh, okay.
Haganai, that was perfect. The fact that it's the wonderful trope of what I didn't hear you, and it's the girl like professing her feelings, and he just doesn't respond to it because he's like, "Huh? What did you say?" And they're like, "Oh, nothing." And then it turns out it's a bit of a spoiler, but at the end of second season of Haganai, he's just like, "No, I heard every single one of those," and they're like, "Fucking mic dropped. What?" And they're like, "What
Yeah,
do we do now?" And it's like, "Oh shit!" And then he finally, because he said this, he finally has to address that. Yes, he did hear all those because he initially ignored it because he didn't want their friendships to change. That was beautifully done. It
yeah.
it
That was
explained that well.
yeah, and that was one where it definitely appeared like a plot device, and then it just changed everything later. But it
Yeah,
was set up well, and that's the key.
that's
It
the
was
key.
and it fit the story. Those are the
Yeah, and it fit the
keys.
story. And that was a plot device used well. That's not to say the entire anime was amazing, but that little thing at the end, I loved it. It was so well done.
Yeah. Um, I was kind of talking about like plot and plot devices. Now thinking on that level, how do you say a plot device is like, for example, how can you tell the difference between like a plot device used like because you have to make a certain amount of planning as we've already said about a plot device you have to insert certain clues
Right.
like now how do you make a plot device predictable or not predictable now like that not like how would you physically do that but like how like what differentiates those two like because I know like if you have a plot device you try to incorporate that in the story as we described if it's done
Yeah.
well but if you incorporate it too much into the story, you start being able to predict it, and that also makes it bad.
Um,
Like that, I've also seen that, and I'm sure there's a lot of anime out there that would have that as an example.
I think that doesn't just have to do with a device itself, but just the plot in general. It's like after a while, if you just like keep using the same plot device, then the story gets absolutely predictable. I mean, it's like each episode of the Power Rangers. It's like, what are they gonna do? They're gonna go. They're gonna try and beat them. They get their ass kicked, and then they all join forces together and they kick the dude's ass. And that's how every single episode goes.
Right.
Scooby Doo, the same thing. They're gonna go. They're gonna try to find clues, run around, get separated. Scooby and Shaggy do some antics. At the end, Velma comes up with a plan, and they capture the dude and unmask him. And then they explain everything. Every single episode is set up that way, and you know it. You understand that.
Right.
And I think it works. It works for those shows just because they're supposed to be simplistic and supposed to be
Right.
like kind of once again going back kind of for little kids.
Yeah, and
Even though
they're
Scooby
segmented
Doo's
as well.
yeah, and they're segmented. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they're
Um,
kind of like their own little story. That's like trying to find a plot device in a slice of life. Like,
right.
like
um,
I mean,
Which I
really
mean
one.
does happen every now and then. It's just
Hmm.
like whenever I think it was like in
Well,
K-On! Whenever
well, for
Yui
example,
got sick and it was good for
yeah,
like 2 episodes.
yeah, or like when she's running late for the umpteenth time. I mean, she's gonna make it to the concert. Like, I mean, that would be awful if she like got hit by a car on the way there.
Oh gosh.
Like, like that's what you call a plot twist, and
And
that
then
would that
everything
would change
changes.
that would change the theme of the show. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I think like you definitely don't want to just insert a plot device. So you think it's definitely the usage of the device, and maybe I guess a plot does consist of multiple plot devices.
Right.
So technically, you're
And
just
how you interwork those.
yeah, and I guess that would be part of the inner working part would be making sure they're not predictable, and
Yeah.
that's so it's as we said because plot devices are two pieces. They're how well it works into the story, and also the first point, which I kind of forgot about. Um, sorry, I've gotten like so deep into it, I've just completely forgotten like the point now. It's
We're
how
off
well,
on a tangent of a tangent, and basically we're like, where did we start? Shit.
yeah, yeah, it's how well it interworks into the story and how I've completely forgotten. That's bad.
Point being, plot devices, it's how you write it. It's arbitrary
Yeah,
to say, but it's how you write it is how it works. For instance, the use of just completely random soap opera plot devices, kind of, sort of, Inferno Cop. Absolutely
plan.
beautiful. Every single one of those was stupid.
A device has to be planned out. That's the other one.
Yeah, it has to be planned out. And I think that's what worked for Inferno Cop is that like they had something that just happened and you're like what the fuck but it works so well because they're just like now we're doing this and they just keep
Yeah,
going through the story.
yeah,
They worked it in even though it made no sense.
yeah. Even though like and like even the guy, the main character, the skeleton, whatever his name is,
Inferno
skeleton guy.
Cop, that's his
Yeah.
name.
Yes, Inferno Cup. Yes.
Inferno Cop.
Yeah, him. And he's just like, what? What? No, that doesn't make any sense. And he's just like, oh, well, screw it. We're just going to do it anyway. He's like, just keep
Right.
going. Keep moving.
Yeah. That's exactly what he does in almost every single time. It's like in the first episode when all of a sudden like the woman just gives birth and it's a little graphic to say, but it's just like freaking birth juice is just everywhere and he's drowning in it and he's like, oh no, what's going on? Why the fuck is this happening? And then he just goes with it. He's just like, all right, I guess I'm swimming in this now. It's
Yeah.
so strange, graphic, and kind of disgusting, but like really funny.
Hmm. I definitely, yeah, that was hilarious. Like, I have to admit, that was a pretty good short. I'm not a fan of a lot of short anime,
yeah.
but that was a good one. That was a
It
good
also it was also wonderful how each character was basically like a cardboard cutout that they were just moving along the screen.
Yeah,
And that's how they animated it.
Yeah, I loved that. That was
And
awesome.
I did appreciate whenever Trigger kept that thing up in Kill la Kill. Is like sometimes specifically there was specifically two characters that would do that all the time. It was Mako and then blonde haired chick that always wore the pink dress.
Oh, her, yeah, where they would just like turn, but they would like flip, like
They would turn, but it literally would be like if you had a cardboard cutout and just flip it.
flip. Yeah.
And that's how they moved. And it was like, the fuck? But it fit because everything was so weird anyways.
Yeah. That would be a definitely good example of that.
And it was neat to show like tiny little animation quirks like that. I'd say Trigger's really good at having tiny little animation quirks like that. Or like the ring out that they do, where like everybody else that's like falling or something, they're like, oh, and then they animate the entire thing. And then that one guy, they just punch him and he just goes, whoop, and then 90-degree, whoop, and just falls.
Yeah.
That was great.
Hmm. Yeah, they definitely have a unique style, and I like definitely animation with unique styles. Again, a unique style I guess is one of those things that's arbitrary, but there are specific studios that are really good at unique styles.
Yeah, and I appreciate them for doing that. Even if they keep like a very similar style throughout a lot of shows, if it's unique enough and if they do their own tiny little twists on it, I still enjoy it.
Right.
Like Kyoto does that all the time. It's like a lot of their stuff is so similar, but at the same time, like the you can see similarities between like Nichijou and Hyoka,
Hmm.
but at the same time, they're still unique enough.
Oh yeah, and they're not completely different shows. I guess they're kind of technically like the same genre or whatever, but like
Yeah,
they're
it's like
definitely.
art style wise they're completely different, but animation wise there's a lot of similar quirks, and it's cool. It's cool to see that amongst the different art styles.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. It's definitely very interesting. Interesting. Again, I need to.
Buzzword
I'm
of
gonna
the
write that
evening.
down and find new adjectives because that's something I need to work on. Okay.
Oh man, I love that show so much, Nichijou.
Yeah, I know you talk about it a lot.
I'm slowly getting through the manga, and that's why is that I hadn't read the manga yet. I had only seen the anime, so I'm slowly getting through that, and it's just fresh in my mind.
Hmm. Yeah. There's so many. They're like, I don't know. I don't know how often like I get into like these ruts of like when I talk about things. I don't want to like demean like what you're talking about, but like, I mean, I try. I don't want to say I try to spice it up, but I don't know how different. Like when I talk about different shows, if I stay on the same ones all the time too, do I do that too? I guess is the question.
I don't necessarily mean to, but I think whenever it does occur, at least for you, it's typically just because that's what's airing this season.
Yeah.
So it's like obviously you are watching it, but even if it's not something you're watching, it's still pertinent because it's within that season, or like it was last season and it's in the backlog.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that I kind of remember the recent stuff better than the stuff I've seen before. I do try to bring up the stuff I've seen before because I've seen a lot of freaking good stuff before. Because my taste is the best, and everybody else's taste is shit.
Oh gosh, let's just get into a trashing situation. Your fucking waifu, just insert her into the trash right now.
Wow. Wow.
No, that's terrible. Let's not do that. I feel like something that we could
No
do.
waifus
Speaking
were
of,
harmed in the making of this podcast.
I feel like something that we could do is actually keep a backlog on our site. That'd be interesting. Of like, this is what we plan on watching sometime.
Oh yeah, or maybe like maybe just put like 5 or 10 shows
Yeah, because
because
we have a massive backlog of like 500 plus shows that we're like we need to get through these, and every
it,
single one of them we're like we actually do need to watch these.
yeah, there
But yeah,
are
I
a
think
lot.
like narrowing it down to like 5 or 10 would be good.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting actually.
And we can just
I
put
mean,
it as a little side note right there of like
yeah,
what we're currently up to.
yeah, yeah. Like you just keep making another tab on the site, like because it seems like we're kind of short on those. So make
We only
more
have a
of those.
couple.
Yeah, there's only a couple there, and so the more of those we have, the better.
Oh, how long have we been talking for?
That's been great. Now it's gonna be in the video. I don't know.
1
Uh,
hour. 1 hour actually. 1 hour and 3 minutes almost. I think this would be a
wow.
good stopping point. We basically got through a whole bunch of topics.
Yeah, we can cut that off at the end there. We probably should have had a signing out thing, but
Well, let's just
whoops.
have a signing out. It's first episode. We can make mistakes, right? We don't have to be perfect from the beginning.
No, the people are gonna be really expecting us to be perfect.
Absolutely. No one makes mistakes on the internet. No one.
No,
Everyone's professional.
no.
No one shits on anyone else.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, I
Right.
guess this is our first episode of Vlog Time. Yay!
No.
Whoa, Matt, you're done? Okay, great. So this is the first episode of Vlog Time, the one and only one Matt's shown up on. Prepare
Hey,
to see just me in the next episode.
hey, wait a minute. Who are you gonna talk to? Are you just gonna talk to yourself?
Oh yeah, totally. I'll just be like, "Hey Kyle, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing really good. How are you doing, Kyle?" "Well, I did pretty
Wow.
well. I got drunk and now I'm doing a podcast."
And now you have split personality disorder.
Among many other problems that I have in my life. But yes, so first episode. Hey, hope everyone enjoyed it and all that junk. see us for the next one. I don't know when this one will be up. I assume I'll edit it and have it up sometime within the next day or two, because I'm professional. So
If you don't like it, you can leave.
whoa, I guess that's true though. If you don't like it, watch somebody else. I'm sure they're immensely more entertaining than us. Not really. They probably
Wow.
are though.
Just
Actually,
trashing on everybody else.
probably are actually way more interesting than us. But hope you liked it. I guess sign out. See you later. Bye on the next
Bye.
episode.